Time for another edition of What Would Jello Do? President Joe Biden, the last 100 days, part 2. Biden's regime's tenure actually started off as kind of a pleasant surprise. Keystone XL pipeline got canceled either the day he took office or the day afterwards. The Pebble Mine in Alaska, which was a horrible eco-nightmare if it actually happened, that got canceled finally, and another big pipeline through northern Minnesota got nailed. No more clear cutting and logging in the Tongass National Forest, which is our Amazon as far as how important it is as part of the Earth's lungs. Now, all we need to get rid of is Enbridge Line 3. Bears Ears and Grand Staircase National Monuments restored. Paris Accord on Climate Collapse, for what it's worth, rejoined. Trying to talk to Iran again to bring back the treaty Trump blew up. Badly needed vaccines and COVID relief bill got through and actually relieved people. Lots and lots of people vaccinated now. Economic stimulus got through. Big infrastructure bill actually passed too. I'm not sure how much of that got spent. And Juneteenth really is a national bank holiday now. Ban on Muslims, out. International gag rule about preventing unwanted pregnancies among the poorest people in the world who don't want more children. Now the gag rule is out and you can actually do that again. Family planning. The DACA, the Dreamers, now they are protected again, at least for now. You can again be transgender and serve in the military. So the 15,000 people Trump tried to kick out are not kicked out. And the federal government is no longer doing business with private prisons. One animal after another, including the gray wolves, are getting back on the endangered species list. But it's not as simple as that one where they just didn't appeal a court ruling saying it had to be put back on. There has been so many Trump-amuck regime rewrites of federal regulations, not just the EPA and the Interior Department, but labor, agriculture, you name it. The same strategy that Reagan and the W. Cheney regime did so well, just do so many horrible things at once, people can never keep track of them all, let alone even report them to other citizens. I hope all those rewrites are close to getting done, and I'm hoping all these other promises, even after inauguration, for badly needed funding and action to really truly build back better, wasn't just intentionally empty promises where you look like you're fighting the good fight, and then you know it's going to get sunk in Congress, and then you can just exhale and relax. Boy, I hope not. Keep fighting. The southern border remains a disaster, in part because some of the most cruel Trump regulations and Stephen Miller wet dreams are still there. Afghanistan was handled horribly and callously and not even consulting the president's own people, leaving all kinds of people in the lurch. It was going to be bad. We had to get out, but it didn't have to be that bad. And yeah, we got to get out of Iraq too. And now we can't let that intimidate us on that, and got to get out well before November 22. Just start getting people out who are going to get killed otherwise. Get them out now. Quietly. Biden has proven he can be reached sometimes, but you really got to watch him. I mean, he wanted to put that monster who's caused so much misery in the world, Lawrence Summers, back into his economic policy team again. Staff revolt got rid of that. He couldn't get Rahm Emanuel into one of the big cabinet positions either. That super cruel mayor of Chicago who had total war on teachers' unions in his own party. He barely got confirmed to be ambassador to Japan. Hopefully he will never return. And the original first woman defense secretary he had in mind, who was turned out to be a total wild warmonger and stuff. Well, maybe even Paul Wolfowitz with the other gender, who knows? Well, he had to pull her too, ultimately. And even that incredibly boneheaded nomination of Mitch McConnell's buddy Chad Meredith for a federal judgeship in Kentucky is now on hold. Didn't win them all. He managed to slip, the man from Monsanto, Tom Vilsack, Obama's horrible agriculture secretary, enemy of organic farming. He got back in again to do all his little dirty work. But Biden can be moved. He did finally reverse himself on the Hyde Amendment that said you could not use any Medicare funds for an abortion. And he wouldn't budge. No, I'm a Catholic, won't budge. And then finally the polls come out that you're never going to win any primaries unless you really come out against that in a very big way. And he did. And he did reverse himself now on trying to at least carve out exceptions to the filibuster to get the Women's Health Care Protection Act passed, get voting rights on again, do something. I mean, where he's sitting is a slightly different position, but Franklin Roosevelt, when people were hitting him up to do this good thing, that good thing, and his reply was, I'd like to do it, now make me do it. In other words, public and backroom groundswell of pressure and support in order to make him do it, instead of just having it tabled, shrug shoulders, oh, McConnell and Sinema and Manchin don't like it, I guess we can't do any of this either. No. Make them do it. Almost all of the things I described that were solid accomplishments by Biden, the easy ones to undo the horrible damage of the Trump-amuck regime, they weren't done through Congress, they were done through executive actions, just like a lot of the worst of the Trump damage was done. And if Congress really is a lost cause, now, not after the 22 election, is time to take more executive actions. Then more. Bypass Mitch and Manchin now. More federal orders now. He's starting to wake up about putting things in, guaranteeing people being able to get abortions somehow, obtain the abortion pills somehow, and some baby steps on guns, and got a baby bill through Congress somehow. But what about the idea touted by AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and many more, that the way to get around even the really war on women states like Texas and Florida and Louisiana and the rest is to make abortion available at all federal installations on federal land where federal law trumps state law. In other words, especially military bases. Biden said no, shot it down right away. It might put women in too much danger. How much danger are you putting women in by not trying to help out in this way and standing up, daring Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis to send his own little private troops and Texas Rangers to military bases? Game on. That's not constitutional. Why not do it now? Keep up the pressure. Make him bend. Biden last December, voting rights is my top priority. Really? Oh, but we lost in Congress because Manchin and Sinema wouldn't buzz, so Uncle Mitch gets to do it again because we won't oppose the filibuster. No. Introduce the Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Act again. House has already passed them anyway. Do it again and then dare people to oppose it this time and say the filibuster is more important than even your own constituency being able to vote for you, Kyrsten Sinema. You vote filibuster instead of voting rights, you're guaranteed to lose in 2024. And now, creeping up through the federal court system is John Eastman's pet theory about state legislatures being able to nullify people's votes and who becomes the electors and everything else. There's a case saying that that's actually the law called Moore versus Harper that Clarence and others have already kind of hinted they're going to rule. Hell yeah, we've been waiting for this one. Yay, Koch brothers or whoever. we can amend the electoral count now. That act passed after the rig election that killed Reconstruction in 1876. This is where you can lock up those loopholes that even some Republican senators proposed first and ban the sham electors no matter what the Supreme Court tries to do. And for crying out loud, require more than one Congress creature from any state to be able to challenge the state's electors. That should have to be unanimous, frankly. And it still might get too scary, but you got to do something now to preempt the Supreme Court next year. After all, heed the words of Donald J. Trump-a-muck. If we let everybody vote, Republicans would never win another election. To that end, the militias are already saying, yeah, we're going to be vote judges, Abbott and DeSantis and the rest. They're going to bring us on every precinct. We are going to be there in our uniforms with our guns, looking badass, just to scare people away from voting. Well, now is the time to put the Jimmy Carter international hat on. He's gone to all countries all over the world to monitor their elections because people respect his word where he says, no, this one was not a free election. This one is, and it should be respected. Mr. Garland, Mr. Seliconth President, you need to announce now that the Justice Department is going to send federal monitors to every single voting place, or at least every county in this country, to watch the election watchers being sent by the neo-Nazis. You can protect elections that way. Get volunteers, whatever, trusted people to report, camera phone citizens, everything. Organize it and announce it now, not the day before the election. There's many things that can be done to preserve the rule of law. And that in itself is in danger right now. And it's not just the Trumpsies who are responsible. Biden has already put down a law that there can't be any lobbying from people, no gifts from lobbyists, and a 2-year ban on anybody becoming a lobbyist after they've worked at any level when Biden is federal government job when he is president. But another problem that might want to be solved now is, why isn't it federal law that the president or even the main candidates before the election must release their tax returns? Make it standard for everybody, not just the right thing to do because Trump didn't do it. And not just the vice president, not just the secretary of state or anybody else has to divest of investments as conflict of interest. The president has to too. The president doesn't have to. The president should be the one who has to more than anybody else. And lift the little Justice Department memo that never was a federal law that the president can be indicted for crimes committed before they were president. And even during, if need be, because Congress doesn't do a job to impeach and remove. Again, this is not federal law. It's just a one-page memo during the Gerald Ford era to protect further attacks on the disgraced former Vice President Spiro Agnew. You don't want to protect Jared Kushner just to appease the ghost of Spiro Agnew. Fix that with your pen. Easy. And release to the public the entire Robert Mueller report now. Let everybody else read it too. If you have to redact 1 or 2 intelligence assets here and there, maybe you do, but by and large, don't just bury it like the Trumpsies did. Has Garland or Biden even read that thing? Read it. And if you won't read it, let the public read it, and then appoint your special prosecutors and follow the money. Because it wasn't just January 6th, but acting in treasonous manners on behalf of Vladimir Putin, they should go to jail. They should be hung like Benedict Arnold instead of getting right back into power and stealing even more money and making this country worse. And because of January 6th, follow this also up. As much as the American military is not supposed to interfere in domestic affairs, there has to be some kind of guidelines if a president does interfere in domestic affairs and try to do another coup. I mean, General Milley and the Pentagon, as far as I know, their hands were tied on what on earth they could do if those neo-Nazis got a little further and began hanging Mike Pence and other people in the House, Trump declaring martial law. Who's going to stop them? Sure, military officers and soldiers are not required to obey unlawful orders. But whose orders are lawful, whose orders are unlawful in a situation like that? There has to be a clear line of what to do, publicly posted and released. We need to upgrade federal terrorism laws so it isn't just foreigners with darker color skin who can go to jail for life for terrorism. The domestic terrorism laws are lighter, so people like the Oath Keepers guy and the Proud Boys guys and the others, they're not going to hit them as hard as they did a guy who tried to light a shoe on fire on a plane, and Last Temptation of Reed and all that. And also, another real good way to protect the country would be to end any of these notions that Jared Kushner put in motion of selling nuclear technological secrets to Saudi Arabia. You want peace in the Persian Gulf, you should be worrying a lot more about that than nukes on the part of Iran, because their main reason for having them is to protect themselves from Israel and the Saudis. Weapons of Mass Destruction Act, nuclear proliferation. Even Marco Rubio has been talking about this. And for crying out loud, save some money, scrap the plan passed by Congress to buy 400 more ICBM missiles we're never going to use. We don't need any more nukes. Even Bloomberg News opposed that one. What we do need is constitutional amendments guaranteeing reproductive rights, guaranteeing LGBTQ rights and marriage equality, guaranteeing that corporations aren't people and bribery isn't legal anymore and Citizens United is overturned. And another one that the Constitution has never done, guaranteeing everybody the right to vote. We don't have that. It's going to take years to build it up, so why not start now and show leadership and vision and planting those seeds? Of course, we're not going to get the Green New Deal right away, but keep pushing. We can't wait for a squad majority to pull moderates' heads out of the sand and make them wake up. Putting good ideas in everybody's face also identifies more and more the crooks standing in the way, so then you can vote them out too. And how about renewing those moratoriums on evictions? Moratorium on rent increases, water cutoffs, utility cutoffs. Millions of children still need healthy meals after pandemic relief expired. Give it back. 40 million people on the precipice of being evicted. Where are they all going to go? How much more is it going to cost to house them after they're evicted if you just pay the rent for them now? Even small landlords are still going belly up. Pay them too. Why not? This is a national security issue. You can use the Pentagon money to do it. People on disability, Medicare, SSI, never got their stimulus checks. Why not give them their stimulus checks? They suffer enough on barely any money as it is. It's fixed income in a period of horrible inflation. Extend that child tax credit, $300 per month per child, that cut child poverty in half overnight. And kids got to eat, parents got a little ahead, they could look for better jobs. It worked really well. Just like the $500 a month guaranteed income that previous mayor, Mr. Tubbs, did in Stockton, California. A lot of that money went for serious necessities, not drugs, not booze, not more junk food or video games. And some people finally did have time to go and look for better jobs. Paid sick leave, paid family leave. This isn't radical. It's just trying to catch up with where Europe has been for generations. We're the stingiest major country in the world about this. Next stingiest is the Republic of Ireland, and even there people get 2 months. Student loans that take an average of over 21 years to pay off, forgive them. A lot of it went to for-profit scam colleges anyway, who should be cracked down on in every way possible. Did Garrett cancel the debts for 323,000 people who are disabled? How about everybody who has been disabled one way or another by the insane weight of student loans? And end paying disabled workers less than minimum wage. How on earth did that ever happen? And repeal was blocked by the nursing home industry, who uses all kinds of scams, get federal money and then pocket most of it and try and make sure disabled people get locked up and basically imprisoned instead of more federal aid so they have helpers and they can continue to live on their own. And no federal contracts anymore for anybody who doesn't have vaccinated employees, anybody who pays their employees less than $15 an hour, anybody who forbids union organizing, anybody who outsources outside of the country at all, anybody who pays insanely high executive salaries, and anybody who won't pay medical care, including flights for women who need to terminate a pregnancy. Many companies, to defy the Supreme Court, have already announced they will. Everybody from Dick's Sporting Goods Store, Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Microsoft, Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, Netflix, Facebook, Meta, permitted. Got to pressure everybody to do that, or no more federal contracts and no more grants of any kind to faith-based organizations who use even things like giving homeless people homeless shelter an excuse to push religion, because right now those faith-based grants are even going to people who, those fake anti-abortion clinics and stuff. Basically, it's as simple as this. Are you just there, and this goes for all the Democrats, up and down, top and bottom, you either really push for this, or basically we got to ask, are you just there to hold office, or are you actually going to use it?